There is a part of you that was never meant to disappear. It was meant to be governed. What most people call the shadow is not evil, not weakness, and not something to destroy. It is raw, untrained energy, anger, fear, desire, pride, left without direction. When that energy has no leadership, it quietly takes control. You react instead of choosing. You defend instead of standing firm. You escape instead of facing what's uncomfortable. The Stoics understood this long before psychology gave it a name. They warned that the greatest danger is not chaos outside you, but the loss of inner governance. The moment impulses begin ruling where reason should stand guard. Here is the truth most people never confront. The shadow never disappears. It either dominates your life or it serves your discipline. This video is not about becoming perfect, calm, or spiritually superior. It is about reclaiming authority over your inner world. These signs don't mean you're flawless. They mean you're no longer possessed by what you haven't faced. If your energy feels quieter, but stronger, stay with me. 1. You no longer react instantly to emotional triggers. When the shadow dominates your energy, life becomes reactive. Something small happens. A comment, a look, a tone of voice, and you are already responding before you realize you had a choice. The body tightens. The mind speeds up. Words come out sharp or defensive. Later, you replay the moment and wonder why it had so much control over you. This is not weakness, it is ungoverned energy. The shadow thrives on speed. It needs immediacy because immediacy bypasses awareness. When you react instantly, the shadow does not argue with reason. It replaces it. Anger speaks before clarity arrives. Fear moves before judgment stabilizes. Pride answers before truth is even considered. Stoic philosophy describes this with unsettling precision. Epictetus pointed out that between what happens and how you respond, there is a space. That space is where freedom exists. When the shadow is in control, that space collapses. Stimulus turns directly into reaction. No pause, no choice, no authority. One of the clearest signs that your shadow no longer dominates you is simple but profound. You pause. You still feel the trigger. Your heart may still accelerate. Emotion still arises, but it no longer hijacks your behavior. You notice irritation without immediately expressing it. You feel the urge to defend yourself, yet you don't rush to explain. You sense disrespect, and you don't explode just to protect your ego. This pause is not passivity. It is command. Something internal has shifted. You are no longer being pulled outward by emotion. You are standing inwardly, observing it. From that position, you choose. Sometimes you respond calmly. Sometimes you say nothing. Sometimes you walk away. But whatever you do, it is deliberate, not automatic. This is what the Stoics meant by self-mastery. Not suppressing emotion, not denying feeling, but refusing to let raw emotion dictate action. Before, your energy leaked through reactions. Arguments drained you. Triggers dictated your mood for hours. Other people could access your inner state with a single sentence. Now that access is restricted. You may still feel anger, but it no longer owns you. You may still feel hurt, but it no longer steers you. You may still feel provoked, but you are no longer dragged. This is not emotional numbness. It is the return of inner authority, and it is one of the first signs that the shadow is no longer in control. 2. You can sit with discomfort without escaping. When the shadow dominates your energy, discomfort feels intolerable. Silence feels heavy. Stillness feels threatening. The moment unease appears, you look for an exit. Your phone, noise, work, food, stimulation, distraction. Anything to avoid staying with what you feel. This is how the shadow survives. It does not overpower you with strength. It controls you through avoidance. The shadow feeds on escape behaviors, endless scrolling, artificial busyness, constant entertainment. Not because these things are evil, but because they prevent you from staying present long enough to see what is actually happening inside you. The moment discomfort arises, you disappear from yourself. Stoic philosophy takes a radically different stance. Instead of running from discomfort, Stoics trained themselves to remain with it. Not dramatically, not heroically, quietly. They practiced voluntary discomfort, not to suffer, but to weaken fear's authority. One of the strongest signs that your shadow no longer dominates you is this. You no longer panic when nothing distracts you. You can sit in silence without immediately filling it. You can feel boredom without turning it into urgency. You can experience difficult emotions without needing to numb them. Discomfort still shows up, but it no longer scares you into movement. This shift is subtle but powerful. When you stop escaping discomfort, it begins to lose its threat. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. What once demanded immediate relief now simply asks for awareness. You realize that most discomfort is not dangerous. It is informational. Instead of asking, "How do I make this stop?" you begin asking, "What is this trying to show me?" You notice where tension lives in your body. You notice the thoughts that appear when stimulation disappears. You notice emotions that were buried under noise, and nothing collapses. This is not resignation, it is stability. Before, discomfort controlled your behavior. It pushed you into habits that drained your energy. It dictated your choices without asking permission. You were always moving away from something. Now you can stay. You can sit with unease long enough for clarity to emerge. You can endure emotional weight without turning it into drama. You can remain present even when the moment offers no immediate reward. This is not toughness for display. It is inner groundedness. When the shadow weakens, discomfort loses its power to chase you. And in that stillness, something new becomes possible. You stop reacting, you stop escaping, you start inhabiting yourself fully. That is not weakness, that is the beginning of quiet strength. 3. You stop needing to be understood by everyone. When the shadow dominates your energy, being misunderstood feels unbearable. A single wrong assumption can trigger long explanations. A perceived judgment can pull you into defense mode. You feel the urge to clarify, justify, and correct. Not because it's necessary, but because your sense of self feels threatened. This is the shadow's hunger for validation. It wants reassurance that you are seen correctly, valued properly, and approved of by the right people. And the more you try to manage how others perceive you, the more power you quietly hand over to them. Your energy leaks into explanations that rarely change anything. Stoic philosophy cuts through this illusion with clarity. Reputation, opinion, and interpretation live outside your control. You can act with integrity, but you cannot govern how others understand you. Trying to do so is not strength, it is dependence. One of the clearest signs that your shadow is no longer dominating you is this. You stop chasing understanding. You still communicate clearly when it matters. You still speak honestly when appropriate. But you no longer feel compelled to explain yourself to everyone who misunderstands you, doubts you, or projects onto you. Silence no longer feels like surrender. It feels sufficient. You notice the shift internally. You no longer write mental speeches defending your choices. You no longer rehearse arguments to prove your point. You no longer feel restless when someone walks away with the wrong impression. This is not indifference. It is grounded self-trust. You know who you are without needing witnesses. Your values do not depend on applause. Your decisions do not require unanimous approval. When criticism comes, you examine it calmly. If it's useful, you take it. If it isn't, you let it pass without internal damage. The Stoics understood this as freedom from external judgment, not because judgment disappears, But because it no longer defines you, you stop measuring your worth through the reactions of others. You stop negotiating your inner peace for the comfort of being liked. Before, misunderstanding felt like a threat to your identity. Now, it feels like a neutral event. You may still explain when clarity serves the situation, but you no longer explain to soothe your ego. And there is a quiet confidence that comes with this shift. You speak less, but with more precision. You engage less, but with more intention. Your energy no longer scatters, trying to control narratives you were never meant to control. At this stage, a simple truth settles in. I know who I am, even if you don't. And that knowing is enough. When the shadow loosens its grip, the need for validation fades. What remains is steadiness, and the quiet relief of no longer performing for understanding. For your anger becomes information, not identity. When the shadow dominates your energy, anger feels personal and absolute. It doesn't just arise. It defines you in that moment. You feel justified, certain, righteous. Anger becomes a badge of truth, a signal that you are right and someone else is wrong. And once it takes that role, it begins to command your behavior. This is one of the shadow's most convincing disguises. It often hides behind moral language, righteous anger, justified outrage, superiority masked as principle. In these moments, anger is no longer a message. It becomes your identity. You act from it, speak through it, and later wonder why the damage feels larger than the situation itself. Stoic philosophy makes a sharp distinction here. Anger is not forbidden, but it is not crowned king. It is treated as a signal, information about a boundary, a value, or a perceived threat. Nothing more. The moment anger starts issuing orders, inner governance is lost. One of the clearest signs that your shadow is no longer in control is this shift. Anger still appears, but it no longer takes over. You feel it rise, and instead of riding it forward, you step back and observe. You ask questions instead of delivering verdicts. What value feels threatened here? What expectation was violated? Is this response coming from principle or from wounded ego? This pause changes everything. Anger becomes data rather than fuel. It informs you, but it does not drive you. You no longer need to vent it immediately to feel relieved. You no longer confuse intensity with truth. You can feel anger without acting it out, and nothing inside you fractures. This does not make you passive or weak. It makes you precise. Before, anger hijacked your energy. It spilled into conversations, lingered for hours, and replayed itself in your mind long after the moment passed. Other people could provoke it easily, and once provoked, they controlled your inner state. Now, that leverage is gone. You may still feel anger, but it no longer owns your voice. You may still feel outrage, but it no longer defines your stance. You may still feel provoked, but you are no longer dragged into reaction. This is not suppression, it is containment. The Stoics understood that uncontrolled anger punishes the one who holds it more than the one it targets. When your shadow loosens its grip, anger loses its authority. It becomes a brief visitor instead of a permanent resident. You are no longer an angry person. You are a person who experiences anger and governs it. That distinction marks a profound internal shift. When anger stops being your identity and becomes information instead, your energy stabilizes, your responses sharpen, and your inner world becomes harder to invade. That is not emotional coldness. It is emotional command. 5. You take responsibility without self-hatred. When the shadow dominates your energy, responsibility becomes distorted. You swing between two extremes. Either everything is someone else's fault, or everything becomes proof that you are fundamentally flawed. There is no balance, only blame or self-punishment. Both reactions come from the same place. The shadow cannot tolerate honest responsibility. If you blame others, the shadow protects itself from discomfort. If you attack yourself, the shadow disguises cruelty as accountability. In both cases, growth is blocked. Stoic philosophy offers a different posture. Responsibility is not a moral drama. It is a practical assessment of what is within your control and what is not. No theatrics, no collapse, no self-flagellation, just clarity. One of the strongest signs that your shadow no longer dominates you is this. You can admit fault without turning against yourself. You can say, "I handled that poorly," without spiraling into shame. You can acknowledge a mistake without questioning your worth. You can see where you fell short and still remain steady. This is a quiet but powerful shift. Before, taking responsibility felt dangerous. If you admitted error, your identity felt threatened. You either defended yourself aggressively or punished yourself internally. The shadow needed extremes to survive. Now, responsibility feels neutral. You look at your actions clearly. You separate behavior from identity. You ask, "What can I correct?" instead of, "What's wrong with me?" And because there is no emotional collapse, you are free to actually improve. This is what the Stoics meant by self-command. You do not deny mistakes. You do not dramatize them either. You extract the lesson and move forward with dignity intact. There is strength in this restraint. You stop reliving failures to prove you care. You stop rehearsing guilt as if it were virtue. You stop mistaking self-hatred for honesty. Accountability becomes clean, precise, actionable. You correct what is yours to correct. You release what is not. And because you are no longer attacking yourself, you conserve energy. That energy now goes into discipline, adjustment, and progress, not internal punishment. This balance is rare, and it is unmistakable. When you can take full responsibility without cruelty toward yourself, the shadow has lost one of its deepest weapons. What remains is maturity, and the steady confidence of someone who can face truth without breaking. 6. You no longer fantasize about revenge or proving points. When the shadow dominates your energy, the mind becomes a courtroom. You replay conversations that already ended. You imagine comebacks you never said. You picture a future moment where you finally prove your point, expose someone, or receive the recognition that was denied. These inner dramas feel productive, but they quietly drain you. This is the shadow's addiction to victory. It feeds on imagined wins because real peace feels unfamiliar. It keeps you tied to the past, rehearsing arguments that no longer matter, waiting for a version of justice that may never arrive. And the longer these fantasies run, the longer other people occupy your inner world without permission. Stoic philosophy is uncompromising here. Peace is superior to victory. Control over the mind matters more than being right. When you chase revenge or validation in thought, you surrender your present moment to something you cannot change. One of the clearest signs that your shadow is loosening its grip is this shift. Those mental battles begin to fade. You still remember what happened, but you no longer need to rewrite it. You still recognize injustice, but you don't fantasize about repayment. You stop building imaginary scenes where others finally get it. The urge to prove yourself loses urgency. This is not because you gave up. It's because you moved on. You notice the change in your mental noise. Fewer arguments playing on repeat. Fewer imagined speeches. Fewer emotional spikes tied to old events. Your attention returns to where your power actually is, the present. The Stoics understood that revenge binds you to the very thing you claim to oppose. It keeps your energy reactive and backward-facing. When that pull weakens, something liberating happens. You stop needing closure from others. You stop waiting for acknowledgement to feel whole. Before, your mind was busy settling scores. Now, it is available. You invest less energy in what should have happened and more in what you are doing next. Your goals become quieter but clearer. Your actions become less performative and more effective. This does not mean you tolerate disrespect. It means you don't carry it with you. You still set boundaries. You still walk away when necessary. But you no longer drag the emotional residue into your inner space. When the shadow recedes, victory stops being external. It becomes internal. You win by not replaying. You win by not proving. You win by refusing to let unfinished conflicts occupy your attention. And in that absence of mental noise, your energy settles. Not dull, not passive, but focused, forward-moving, and free. This is the moment when peace stops feeling like weakness and starts feeling like strength. 7. You can see your flaws without collapsing. When the shadow dominates your energy, self-examination feels dangerous. Looking honestly at your flaws threatens your identity. The moment you notice selfishness, insecurity, fear, or inconsistency, the mind reacts defensively. You either deny it, justify it, or turn the discovery into self-attack. The shadow cannot tolerate clear self-vision. If you avoid your flaws, it stays hidden. If you punish yourself for them, it stays in control. Both reactions keep you from real change. Stoic philosophy takes a more demanding path. It asks for radical honesty, not to humiliate the self, but to free it. The Stoics believed that you cannot govern what you refuse to see, and you cannot improve what you are afraid to name. One of the strongest signs that your shadow no longer dominates you is this. You can see your flaws without falling apart. You can say, "I was insecure there," without spiraling into shame. You can admit, "I acted out of fear," without needing excuses. You can recognize ego, avoidance, or resentment, and remain intact. This is not emotional toughness. It is emotional stability. Before, self-awareness felt like a threat. Every flaw felt like evidence against your worth. The shadow used self-knowledge as a weapon, turning insight into self-punishment. Growth felt heavy, personal, and exhausting. Now, something changes. You separate behavior from identity. You see flaws as patterns, not verdicts. You observe them the way a strategist studies weaknesses, calmly, without drama, without contempt. And because there is no collapse, there is room to adjust. This is where true inner freedom begins. You stop hiding from yourself. You stop performing for your own approval. You stop needing to be perfect to feel solid. The Stoics never aimed for moral purity. They aimed for clarity. When you can look at yourself honestly and remain steady, the shadow loses one of its deepest strongholds: fear of self-truth. You no longer need illusions to protect your self-image. You no longer need denial to survive insight. You can face your imperfections and stay grounded. And that ability, to see clearly without breaking, is not weakness. It is the mark of real self-mastery. 8. Your energy feels quieter, but more solid. When the shadow dominates your energy, life feels loud inside. There is constant urgency to react, to explain, to prove, to defend, to stay relevant. Your emotions spike quickly, your opinions sharpen fast, your presence carries tension even when nothing is visibly wrong. The shadow thrives on noise, not just external noise, but internal noise. Mental chatter, emotional swings, the need to be seen, felt, acknowledged. Energy moves fast, but it doesn't move deep. It leaks outward through intensity rather than grounding inward through stability. Stoic philosophy points toward a different kind of strength. Not the strength of force, but the strength of presence. The kind that does not announce itself. The kind that does not need urgency to feel real. One of the clearest signs that your shadow no longer dominates you is this shift. Your energy becomes quieter, but noticeably heavier. You speak less, but with more weight. You react less, but with more intention. You move slower, but with clearer direction. There is less drama in your inner world, less emotional inflation. less need to amplify yourself to feel significant. You are no longer powered by extremes. You don't need intensity to feel alive. This does not mean you lose passion. It means passion is no longer chaotic. Before, your energy was scattered. It surged and crashed. It depended on external stimulation, conflict, validation, urgency, to stay active. When those things disappeared, restlessness followed. Now, your energy is contained. You feel grounded in your body, present in conversations, comfortable in silence. Decisions come from a steady center instead of emotional momentum. When challenges appear, you don't escalate immediately. You assess, you respond, you conserve force. This is what the Stoics meant by quiet strength. There is a solidity to you that others can feel, even if they can't name it. You don't need to dominate a room to hold presence. You don't need to react loudly to protect your position. Your boundaries are clear without being aggressive. The shadow once fed on excess energy. Now that energy is integrated. It no longer pulls you into extremes. It no longer demands expression to exist. What remains is composure, not the absence of emotion, but the command of it. When your energy becomes calm, contained, and durable, it is a sign that inner governance has returned. The shadow has not vanished. It has been placed where it belongs, and from that place, your strength no longer needs to prove itself. The shadow was never your enemy. It was unmanaged power. Most people spend their lives trying to outrun it, suppress it, or pretend it isn't there. They confuse avoidance with growth and numbness with peace, but what they avoid continues to operate in the background, shaping reactions, draining energy, and quietly steering decisions. Stoic philosophy never asked you to destroy your shadow. It asked you to govern it. What you've seen in these signs is not perfection, enlightenment, or emotional immunity. It is something far more realistic and far more demanding. The return of inner authority. The moment where impulses stop ruling and awareness takes its rightful place. You still feel emotions. You still experience anger, fear, desire, doubt, but they no longer command you. Instead of reacting instantly, you pause. Instead of escaping discomfort, you stay present. Instead of chasing validation, you stand grounded. Instead of identifying with anger, you study it. Instead of punishing yourself, you correct course. Instead of replaying the past, you reclaim the present. Instead of collapsing under self-knowledge, you remain steady. And instead of loud intensity, you move with quiet strength. This is what shadow integration looks like in real life. Not dramatic transformation, not spiritual performance, but a deep internal shift where your energy stops leaking outward and begins consolidating inward. Where fewer things provoke you, fewer thoughts trap you, and fewer external events dictate your inner state. The Stoics believed that freedom is not found in controlling the world, but in mastering your responses to it. When your shadow no longer dominates you, the world loses many of its hooks. People lose access to your nervous system. Situations lose their power to destabilize you. You become harder to manipulate, not because you are guarded, but because you are centered. This path is not easy. It requires honesty without cruelty, discipline without rigidity, awareness without self-obsession. But the reward is real. You move through life with less friction. You conserve energy instead of spending it on reaction. You act from principle instead of impulse. And most importantly, you no longer fear what lives inside you. Because what you have faced, understood, and governed can no longer possess you. If this resonates, don't rush past it. Sit with it. Practice it. Let these signs become habits, not just insights. And if you're on this path, even imperfectly, you're already doing something rare. You're governing your inner world. If this video helped clarify that journey, leave a comment. I govern my inner world. And if you want to continue building quiet strength, self-mastery, and inner clarity, Stay with the channel.